Are lease options profitable? Well, as an investor, if you're looking to do this as a business or as a passive investment for yourself and your family, it is definitely very profitable because there's at least three profit centers in a lease option. The first one is option consideration. Now, most people call this security deposit, but what an option consideration is when a tenant puts down money, let's say 2 times, 3 times the rent that they will put down in the security deposit, they will put that down as option consideration. So say, for example, the rent is $1,000. Well, on a regular rental, they'll put down the first month's rent and a security deposit of $1,000 to move into the property. Well, on a rent-to-own, that same tenant would put down, say, 2 or 3 times that amount, which is $2,000 to $3,000 in an option consideration, as well as the first month's rent. So that money is their option to purchase the house when they're ready to purchase within the terms of the agreement. So that's the first profit center. And sometimes that option consideration could be considerable. It could be as much as 3 or 5% of the sales price or of the projected sales price. So you can actually collect $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 up front in cash in option consideration, because that's what the buyer is willing to do in order to rent the property and then have the right to purchase it later on when they qualify. The second cash flow is the cash flow that you get from a property, and that's the second profit center. Essentially, when you collect rent, let's say $1,000 for example, you may have a mortgage obligation to the lender or the seller of, say, $700. Well, that's a $300 difference each month, positive cash flow that goes right into HIP National Bank. So if you're collecting $1,000 in rent and the obligation each month is only $700, you're making $300 every month. So that's the second profit center. The third profit center is when the tenant purchases the property. So let's say now it's maybe a year and a half, 2 years later, the tenant's ready to purchase the property. They've been getting their ducks lined up in a row, and now they're ready to purchase. They have lending qualifications now that they have been approved to get a loan. And so let's say they're ready to buy the property. So let's say the house is worth maybe $150,000. Well, you've bought this property on a rent-to-own with the seller at a strike price of, say, $120,000. Well, now that you're ready to sell the property, the buyer purchased the property at $150,000, which is agreed upon when they rented out the property with the option to buy. So they purchased it for $150,000, which is agreed upon in the beginning. You sold it at $120,000, which is your strike price or your agreed upon price that you'll buy from the seller. So that's a $30,000 difference. And you make that in profits as a third profit center. So is a lease option profitable? Absolutely. There's 3 profit centers. And if you add it up, each deal could average anywhere between $20,000, $40,000, $50,000 plus. And you didn't have a lot of risk involved, which is you didn't get the loan, you didn't have your name on a loan, you didn't have to put up a lot of cash to get the loan, and your tenant buyer is paying the mortgage while you control it via an option, via a lease option. So lease options are very, very profitable if you know how to do it correctly.